everybody. So I'm really excited to be here to do my monthly series where I talk about the movies I saw in the previous month. And I am still getting over this cold, so if I have to cough or I sound a little under the weather, that's why. But I will power through it, and because I have some amazing films to tell you about. I do have the chat room. If anybody decides wants to join in the conversation, please do. Okay. So I have these kind of not really in the order that I saw them. I just kind of was trying to remember them. But I have a lot of films that I ended up seeing because I ended up being able to take a couple of days off of work and just had a bunch of free time. So it worked out perfect. So that's why. So here we go. And I hope you guys all had a lovely holiday season. And are excited about a new year. So here we go. The first film that I'm going to talk about is a movie called, it's a animated indie film. This is from, I'm going to talk about a number of these on this podcast. This is a really sweet little movie called Ethel and Earnest. And this is one out of the UK. I guess it was broadcast on BBC. It's really easy to find online. And it has Jim Broadbent and Brenda Blethyn. Oh, that's a tongue twister. And it's based on a Raymond Briggs story about his parents. It's very sweet, very lovely, little slice of life animated film. It's in kind of 2D, and I think that you'll really enjoy it if you get a chance to see it. It's very, very, very adorable. Perfect for the Christmas time, really. So that's the first of the indie animated films that has a huge heart, and it's just about these people's lives, literally from the time they get married all the way until they die. So, all right. Next, I have the movie Lion. This movie, I think, is way underrated. I don't hear anybody talking about it as far as awards. I loved this movie. It's so beautiful. It's got Dev Patel in it, but he's actually only in it for about half the movie. The rest of the movie, it stars this little boy who's amazing. And he is this little boy who gets lost from his family in India. And what happens to him, and he ends up getting adopted by this family in Tasmania, and then he, through Google Earth, this all in the trailer, so it's not spoiler. Through Google Earth, he's able to find his family in India, and it's really cool. It's very, very beautifully shot. The cinematography, the acting's great. I really liked Nicole Kidman as his adopted mother, and It just has huge heart. I mean, I love adoption. I love adoption messages, but it's not too like cloying or sentimental. It's just inspirational and moving, and about people that feel real. And I really, really, really loved this movie. The music is so good. All the songs, So if you get a chance to see it, check Lion out. It's a really, really, really good film on all levels. So. And if any of you in the chat room have seen any of these movies, let me know and what you thought. So the next one I want to talk about is Fences, and Fences is a play by August Wilson, and it's Pulitzer Prize winning play, and I guess Viola Davis and Denzel Washington were both in the Broadway cast, and I guess some of the supporting players as well, and it really feels like it feels like a play that's been filmed, which I have no problem with because I love plays, but other people, that'll be hard for them to get over because there's just a different sort of dynamic to plays than there is for movies. And it's just a little bit more sort of speechifying when you're going to a play versus more natural feel when you go to a movie. But I didn't mind it. I mean, it's interesting because Denzel plays a very unlikable character. He is just kind of a beast. And so that's sort of different for Denzel. I mean, I guess he did Training Day and other stuff, which I haven't seen, but it was different for me, for Denzel, who I always think of as so likable. And Viola Davis is tremendous in it. She's just great. And you just feel for her because she has less choices than the Denzel Washington character has. And so, yeah, definitely worth checking out. And yeah, Germania says, I used to do plays, so that sounds interesting for fences. Yeah, if you have any sort of love of the theater, you got to see it. And I'm really excited because this Saturday, I'm actually going to Pioneer Theater Company here in Utah is doing Fences. So I'm going to see the play. And then I hopefully like later on that day, or maybe the next day, I'm going to go see the movie. So I'll be able to compare, contrast the play to the movie. I think that'll be really cool. So I'm probably going to do a video on that and that experience. So, okay, moving on. I have a lot to talk about, so I won't be going on too long about most of these. So the next one that I saw that was a 2016 release is Lights Out. And I'd heard a lot of really good things about this movie. And I was really underwhelmed by it. I thought it was schlocky, and I didn't think the acting was that good, and it just didn't scare me, and I'm an easy scare. I don't know. Like, me, compared to 10 Cloverfield Lane, I didn't think it was even close to as scary and as tense and as 10 Cloverfield Lane was. So I don't know. I was kind of disappointed by Lights Out. Some of the way they did the cinematography was sort of cool and creating atmosphere. And I thought Teresa Palmer was pretty good, but I don't know. I just saw her coming and going all the whole time, and I don't know. I just thought it would be better from what I'd heard. So. Okay, then the next one was a classic that I actually saw on Christmas Eve. I saw It's a Wonderful Life, which has become a tradition for me. Every Christmas Eve for the last 3 years, I've seen It's a Wonderful Life, and it's just perfect. I love it. You know, some people claim it goes on, it's a little slow in that middle section where they're going over his life. And it is kind of surprising how little time is spent in the new world, in the new version of his life. Like, it's really only about 10 minutes, but it just works so much. It just reminds you of all the blessings that you have in your life and the friends that you have, and how grateful you should be for the small things, and you know, to just never give up on life and what really matters. And here he's going to commit suicide. And I've heard some people say, oh, it's way over the top. Of course it's over the top. He's about to commit suicide. Of course they're going to do something over the top. You know, it's not like something subtle reaches somebody who's about to commit suicide. And I love Jimmy Stewart in it. I love all the performances. I love the cinematography that they got. I just love it. So it's a great tradition that I've started the last 3 years. Okay, next, I actually saw another Christmas classic on the big screen. I saw A Christmas Story. It was really fun. My local art house theater did Wassail and Waffles. And you went and they had wassail and waffles and free. And then they had 4 different Christmas movies that you could see. The one that fit in as far as when I got my waffle and everything was A Christmas Story, which I love. I think it is so funny. I think it's so sweet. I think it just has actually this emotional heart to it with Ralphie and the bully in particular. And I think that kid is actually a super good actor in that scene. And when he realizes that his mother is going to stick up for him, that's really touching moment, I think. And so I know people are like, oh, I'm so sick of it, but I don't really understand that, because I don't know, I just see it once a year. I don't understand how people get sick of it. Like, it's not like Frozen where, you know, little kids are watching it over and over and over again, and they play it on TBS, but like, you just don't watch it all the times they play it. I don't understand why that's a problem. But anyway, I really, 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 really love a Christmas Story. It makes Christmas for me. I gotta watch it. Okay, and moving on. I also got to see on the big screen, which was a super big treat, I got to see Spirited Away, Hayao Miyazaki's masterpiece from Studio Ghibli. And if Urbania is still listening, that's one we got to see. We got to watch, because it's just phenomenal. It's one of the most, it may be the most creative movie I've ever seen, where every single scene, I have no idea what is going to happen next, whether it's going to be a giant baby or a dragon that turns into paper, or these little cold creatures, or it's just so creative and so different. And I love seeing Chihiro learn to become sort of a woman. She starts out sort of this whiny little girl, and she becomes basically a young woman, and in the story. And that's something that Miyazaki is so great at, is sort of working with female protagonists and seeing them grow. And it's just stunning. One of my favorite movies ever. So that was such a treat to see it on the big screen. And next month, or this month, on Monday, we get to see Princess Mononoke, which is very, very exciting. So, and also, I think it's also on the 5th. If you can't see it on Monday, I think you can also see it on Thursday is when I think it's available. So that's pretty exciting. So here we go. Some more. Another one I saw was Jackie, and I'd heard lots of good buzz. People really liked it. I didn't care for this movie. I didn't like it. I felt like they make a lot of strong choices they either kind of embrace or don't embrace, and I just didn't embrace them. They turned Jackie Kennedy into this robot woman. I was telling a friend, I felt like she should have become like one of those robots in Westworld or something like that, because she was just so she had no personality, and she was just, and I just felt like a lot of the choices they made were really heavy-handed. Like, they have 2 montages where they play Camelot, and she's like trying on clothes and stuff. Like, it's like, come on. I mean, we get it. And I don't know, I just thought they made her really unlikable and just like bland. And I didn't like the music. I didn't like anything about it. I mean, she just was so robotic, and she's a real person. I had issues with Steve Jobs. I know everyone else loved it, but I had issues with that movie because he's a real person. It's not like he's some kind of fictional character that you can kind of, I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of unfair. Like, people love Steve Jobs. People, like at Pixar, for instance, people loved him, and he was a wonderful influence. You never got any of that in that movie at all. And so it just seems so one-sided to me and so unfair. And the same thing I feel like with Jackie. I mean, it just turned her into this, she's a real person. She was a real person. And I just didn't like the way that they turn her into this sort of bland robot. I didn't like it. So it wasn't for me. Then I saw Assassin's Creed. It's not a good movie, but I didn't hate it as much as everyone else. I did think there was some sort of fun in sort of this over the top kind of sci-fi kind of story where they're like going after the apple, and the apple is the key to immortal life, and sort of like following the path of their ancestors, would take them to the apple. And it's got great actors, Marion Cotillard and Michael Fassbender, Charlotte Rampling, and Jeremy Irons. I didn't think it was that bad. I'm not going to say that it's good, but I thought there was some fun to be had in it, and I certainly liked it a million times more than Warcraft. Here, I'll just read what I wrote. Let's see here. People are saying it was worse than Warcraft. I highly disagree with that. I thought Warcraft was way more confusing, and just I didn't even know what the characters' names were or what they're trying to do. And I just thought this had some kernels of some good ideas, some interesting cinematography, some interesting stuff. I wrote here, believe it or not, this video game adaptation was on my most anticipated list because of the cast and director. I'd heard how horrible it was, but I had time. I had time, so I saw it, and I walked away having an okay time. I liked the sci-fi premise with the Templars and the assassins through time, and the goofy apple that takes away free will. To me, that was just over the top enough to be fun. The action was pretty good, the special effects were pretty good, and the cast was stellar, including Michael Fassbender, who I adore, Marion Cotillard, who was a little flat, Brendan Gleeson, Jeremy Irons, and the amazing Charlotte Rampling. It's not a great movie, but I think there is entertainment to be had in it. It's certainly better than Warcraft. So that's what I think about that. So I don't know if anybody in the chat room saw it, but there you go. That's what I think about Assassin's Creed. Okay, next I saw Passengers, same day as Assassin's Creed, and another movie I feel like has been sort of unjustly maligned, more so than Assassin's Creed, because Assassin's Creed is not a good movie. I actually really liked Passengers. I thought that it was a really cool romance story. And yes, he makes a bad decision, a bad choice, but I kind of understood because he's super lonely. And he just kind of has a mental break that causes him to make this choice. And I felt like the movie punished him for that choice. I don't think he was completely left off the hook. And so I don't know. It's so beautiful. The sets, production value, and they have such great chemistry. I enjoyed seeing them together. I liked it. I gave it a B. I enjoyed it. So go figure. I didn't find it offensive like some people. So there you go. Next up, I want to talk about is La La Land. And I have to admit, I've kind of sunk a little bit on this movie since I saw it, just because I literally have not thought about any of the songs since I saw it. To me, the songs were very unmemorable. And I know a lot of people love the songs. I think the score is super good. The songs, I don't think they're that good. I really don't. And when I compare them to Sing Street and to Moana's songs, I don't think they're even close to as good of songs. And I have some issues with the ending, because I feel like the ending is kind of saying, like, you know what? You sacrifice relationships for your dreams, and here's to the dreamers. How great is that? And I don't think that's necessarily very good. I think that relationships are more important than dreams. Are more important because in this case, the dreams are jobs. There's no job that is worth sacrificing a relationship for, in my opinion. And I feel like the movie doesn't sort of honestly sort of address the fact that it's a job. That, you know, that they puff up this thing to such an extent that it's like this unquestionable good, that having this job, having this dream is sort of an unquestionable good. And it's like, no, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And so I don't know. I mean, I guess you can say that sort of what happens at the end sort of, they do sort of address it a little bit, but I felt like I needed a little bit more than that. So I don't know. Both Damien Chazelle's films, I felt like I needed more than I was given as far as character motivations. But it looks beautiful. The cinematography is great. The performance, Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have great chemistry. It's overall an enjoyable film. I did like it, but I originally had it in my top 10, and then I kind of moved it down. I think it's like 23 or 24. So there you go. Next, I have Nocturnal Animals, and this movie is one of those hard movies for me to grade, because I recognize the skill behind it. It is super well made, and it's very intriguing, but it was too violent for me. Just my standards and my tastes, it was just too intense and too violent for me, and so I had a hard time started dealing with it. But I recognize that if that's not an issue for you, that there is something interesting here to be had. Especially because it's about this woman who's reading this book that's written by her ex. And so there's sort of her timeline going on, and the history of her with her ex, plus the story of the book, all kind of going on at the same time, which is very clever. And I thought that Michael Shannon as the sheriff in the book story was so good. He's just so great. And I thought that Jake Gyllenhaal was really good. I thought that Amy Adams was good, but I didn't think she was. I think she's better in Arrival, personally. So I don't know. It's really well made. It's really beautiful. It builds tension so well. I like how they combine these different stories. It was just too violent for me. So that's it. Next, I have Jason Bourne. I was super disappointed in this movie. I finally saw it because I hadn't seen it on the big screen, because they make me kind of nauseous, the Bourne movies. So I see them on the small screen, and I thought this movie was super lame. Like, it's just like action mixed with people staring at screens, and then more action and people staring at screens. I did not care about the story at all. Like, the Hollywood thinks that, like, the Edward Snowdens and the WikiLeaks and stuff makes for good action movies. It doesn't. Those people, it's really boring. But like, it's important. like it's significant what they're doing, but that doesn't mean that it makes for compelling doesn't make it exciting for an action movie. It just makes it really boring. And I don't know. I thought you have Alicia Vikander and Tommy Lee Jones, 2 Oscar winners, and they just literally stare at screens and talk the whole movie. I can't believe that with Matt Damon and Paul Greengrass that was the best they could do. I really can't. What a disappointment. I thought it was really bad. I mean, I really didn't like it. So there you go. Next, I have Rogue One, and I've talked about this a lot. I was really disappointed in this one too. Not as much as Jason Bourne, but I was disappointed. I thought that the characters were muddled, were poorly developed. I thought the story was muddled, especially the Saw Gerrera part. That was like, what's going on? And I think if I hadn't had read Catalyst, I think that the Galen Erso and Krennic storylines wouldn't have been as clear as they were for me, because I had that backstory. And Gervais says Snowden raised good conversation, but I was so bored in it. Yeah, I didn't see Snowden, but yeah, I heard that from everybody, which is so surprising from Oliver Stone. Like, you'd think that he would at least make it kind of, I don't know, like a manipulative and sort of exciting in a certain way. But yeah, I thought that Jason Bourne was really bad. Like, I really didn't like it. And the Rogue One, it does end really well. Vader's awesome. I liked Jen as a character. I thought she was pretty good. And but I just didn't get to know any of the characters. And so to me, it was just kind of disappointing on that level, because Star Wars is always about sort of the characters, for better or worse. And so I don't know. And then I have other little nitpicks and problems and stuff. And overall, I was pretty disappointed by it. So yeah, anyway, the next one is a movie called Things to Come. This is a French film, and you guys have to see it when you get a chance. It's so good. Is Isabelle Huppert, I think how you say it, or Huppert, I'm not sure. She is so good in this movie, and it's so cool because it's just sort of a year in the life of this woman, and she has like everything bad that could ever happen to you happen. Her husband leaves her. She loses her sort of book contract with her job. She's just, her things are going on with her mother, and hi. Excuse me. And she ends up taking these negative things and making it into this really empowering experience. And it was so good. It was so well written. It was so absorbing. I loved her acting, was flawless. There were so many ways that they could have made this really cliched and really, but instead they always took a more interesting choice and a more interesting thing. And I'm Christian, and there's a speech in here that she gives about sort of explaining her agnosticism that I found, like, I was practically in tears. Like, it was so inspirational. And I've never had an agnostic speech, I guess, that had that kind of effect on me. But it just shows that if a character in a movie is honest and being honest with how they feel, then anybody can sort of feel for that character and feel what they're saying, because it's true to that character. And so it was a great example of that to me. It's definitely going to be on my top 10 list. I loved it. It's really, really, really good. So fight the subtitles and watch it. It's excellent. So the next movie that I saw is The Eagle Huntress. This movie is a great documentary about this girl in Thailand who becomes the first Eagle Huntress to win this trophy, and in like forever. And it's all about her and her father and this family, and the cinematography is gorgeous, and it's just heartwarming. It's one you want to take your daughters to. It'll make them feel really good. And excuse me. And the only thing that I have down about this movie is, once I read up on it, some of the claims they make have been kind of exaggerated a little bit. And so that kind of was like, oh, that was a little bit of a bummer. But I still really loved it. You should definitely watch it. And so here we go. Next thing is the fantastic, it's also narrated by Daisy Ridley, which is fun to hear her if you're a Force Awakens fan. So next is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I saw it for the second time in December, and it's fine. I don't hate it. It's got some nice music. It's got some nice moments. I like Queenie. I like Jacob. I like the Beast and the Niffler, and it's sort of fun. But I just didn't think they successfully meshed the two stories together very well, and I just didn't like Newt as a character. I didn't bond with him. I didn't like him. I couldn't understand him most of the time, and I think he would have made a great side character, but as the lead protagonist, I didn't really like him. But I did like quite a bit about it, and I actually think I liked it a little more than Rogue One, which is surprising to me. Yeah, Cold Summer says, my dad was agnostic and my mom was Catholic. So yeah, I had some good speeches about both sides growing up. That's awesome. That's so good to get the different perspectives and be able to feel for both those perspectives. And they just executed it so well in that movie. Things to Come. You should check it out. It's really good. Okay, Moana. And I think you all know how I feel about this. I just loved it. I loved the songs. I loved the story. It's kind of an Odyssey type story where, she got the hero kind of going on her quest and she meets all these obstacles along the way. And that was great. I really enjoyed that. And I think all the voice work is great. And I think the ending is great. And I love Maui as a character. I love the way they integrate the 2D into him. I thought the humor really worked. And I love it. I think it's great. I love the ocean. I love how they respected the Polynesian people and the culture. And so, yeah, it was great. Next is a film called The Red Turtle. And this is I did a review on this on my channel and nobody has watched it. So go watch the review because this is a special animated film. It is so beautiful, this movie. And it's kind of like if the people behind Song of the Sea and Studio Ghibli had a baby, they would make The Red Turtle. And those are two of my favorite things in the whole world. So no wonder I liked this movie so much. It has no dialogue and it's just about this man who gets shipwrecked on this island. Well, he tries to sail away. He builds a raft 3 times, and each time this red turtle destroys his raft. And so there's something about fate that wants him to stay on that island. And there's some connection that he has with the red turtle that I won't spoil for you, but is really, really moving and interesting and surprising. And the music, oh my gosh, the music is so beautiful because there's no dialogue. So a lot of this emotion is expressed through the music. And he ends up meeting, there's this woman who ends up coming into the story and their relationship. And so it's beautiful. And if you think you don't like movies with no dialogue, maybe give this one a shot because I just thought it was stunning. And so there you go, The Red Turtle. And the animation, oh my gosh, it reminds me of something that Isao Takahata would have done. It sort of feels like Grave of the Fireflies or, his sort of watercolor style. But you've got the ocean and the way that he kind of communicates with the ocean and this turtle. And it's so beautiful. So there you go. All right, almost done. My voice is starting to fail me. Okay, the next one I saw was Swiss Army Man. This had gotten a lot of praise. I knew a lot of people who loved it. I didn't care for it. I thought it was very repetitive and just kept kind of doing the same. That's one thing. A lot of these sort of experimental movies, I admire sort of the experiment, but I feel like they don't sort of think beyond the experiment for the screenplay. Like The Lobster I had the same issue with. I felt like it was just repeating the Lobster and this were just repeating the same idea over and over and over and over again. And I felt like with Swiss Army Man, it was just like when they didn't have anything to say, then it was just like different kinds of bodily function jokes. Like there were so many of them, and it was just like, I don't know. I just felt like it was an excuse to kind of cover bad writing. And I don't know. I was disappointed. I didn't think it was very good. I didn't like it. So I guess some artistic experiments work, like The Red Turtle. Others don't work for me. Anyway, so, but I have to say Daniel Radcliffe is pretty great as this corpse. Okay, next is Manchester by the Sea. This movie, oh my gosh. Holy cow, devastating. I was crying. This movie, I really thought about putting in my top 10 because it got the biggest cry for me of the whole year, by far. And there's one particular scene with frozen chicken, that's all I'll say, that I was just mess. But the only reason it didn't get in my top 10 was because I did feel like it took me about 20 minutes to really sort of get into it. And then the movie kind of shocks you, and it's shocking. But it's a movie about how men grieve and how they communicate with each other. And so it's very enlightening in that regard. Great script once you get past that sort of slow beginning. And great acting all around. I really thought every performance was good. So let's see. Cold Summer 91 says 2016 was a great year for Disney regarding their movies. 2017 should be year for their animated TV shows. True. Good point. Yeah, Disney, I'm not that excited about their upcoming films, but I'm going to do a video on that coming up. Don't worry. So only two more. The next one is called Tower, and I have a review of this on my blog. This movie blew me away. It was so creative. It was so different. It's in kind of a semi-animated film that takes, there was in 1966, there was this sniper at the University of Texas that was just like taking out people from this tower. And so it's this documentary where they interview all of these people, but then they also have actors who are in their kind of places, and they rotoscope it, so there's this animation kind of recreating what happened. And so you get little interviews of the actual people, you get interviews of the actors, you get the animated sections, and the way they combine it all together was so moving and so beautiful, and it was just so different. And there's particularly two characters that blew me away. There's one character, there's this woman, a pregnant woman who gets shot, and she's lying out on the concrete, and this woman just on her belly comes up and holds her hand just so she can and I thought that was just amazing. And there's also this total John McClane character who was awesome. And but then there's also people who admit I was a coward. I didn't have the guts to go out there and face the sniper. But these other people did. So it was just great. I highly recommend it. It was very good. So then the last movie, let's see, Tyson Smith says, the kid in Manchester deserves some attention. He did a great job. I agree. Just for that chicken scene alone, that scene, I was just, oh my gosh. You never think about the fact that the earth will be so frozen, and how upsetting that will be. And also, I think Kyle Chandler, I think he should have gotten nominated last year for Carol. He was so good in that movie of making a character that should be kind of unlikable, making you feel for him and making you understand his position of what he's going through, what he's having to deal with. And I thought he was so good in that movie. He deserved a nomination. But I think he also is great as a true supporting role here in Manchester by the Sea. So the last movie that I've talked about was the last film in the Silver Screen Classics series that I've been doing, that Megaplex Theaters here in Utah did a 10-week series with 10 classic films. And the last one on the big screen was The Searchers. And this was one I hadn't seen before, or I hadn't seen in a long time. And it's a great movie. It's a really good story. It's really interesting. The shots are so beautiful. John Ford, the cinematography is great. The acting is good. The only part of it that didn't really work for me was the humor. I thought was a little too broad for the intensity of the story. And I don't know, it just kind of took me out of the movie whenever they do that. And but I guess a lot of people love the humor. They have a lot of, sort of nostalgia for it. But John Wayne's great. It's probably one of his best movies, outside of the Quiet Man. It's one of his best westerns that I've seen, at least. And so it's a great western, and so yeah, that was the end of December. Whew. But it was so fun. I had such a great time. There were days when I would just watch on a Saturday or something, and I would just watch 3-4 movies just because, I don't know, just hanging out, and what do you got to do? So it was a lot of fun. And so anyway, thanks for joining me on this. And I should say, so my worst that I saw in December, Let's see here. Jason Bourne. That was the worst. I really thought that was a clunker. I didn't like it. And then the best that I saw, man, I saw some great movies. Well, I mean, It's a Wonderful Life is the best of all the ones I saw, but the new or Spirited Away, those would be the best. But as far as the new releases, I really loved Tower. I love The Red Turtle. I loved Things to Come. Those are probably my three favorite. I loved Lion. That was just amazing. So those are probably my favorites, but I saw a lot of really great movies. Also, Lights Out. That would be one of my least favorites of the month that I saw. So Jackie, I really didn't like. So, yeah, so that is my month. I'll be curious to know what your favorites were. And, Fadi says Red Turtle was really good. It really is so good. Graham says, I did see Assassin's Creed. I didn't think it was that bad. I thought there was entertainment to be had in it. I really did. But, I guess I have no attachment to the game. So, anyway, it's certainly not a good movie, but I didn't think it was that bad, as people say. I certainly liked it better than Warcraft. So that was my month. And so, yeah, let me know in the comment section what was your favorite. If you saw any of these films, what you think of them. And thanks so much, people who joined me in the chat room. And I really appreciate it. And hope you all have a great. Tim Graham says La La Land was the best of December. It's a very enjoyable film. I can see why. So it would be your favorite. So anyway, thanks so much. And I hope you all have a great week. And I will be excited to start 2017. Yay!